And hello, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of Dreamscapes. Today we have our friend Dana. I forgot to ask where in the world you are. Is that okay to say?
Edmonton, Alberta.
You said Edmonton, Alberta?
Yep.
Canada. Wonderful. Canada. A leaf. Wonderful. I don't think I've spoken to anyone from Canada yet. So this is good. I'm getting true international reach. Anyway, our friend Dana here's going to share a dream with us. I'm going to listen. We'll ask some questions and then we'll talk about it. So I'm ready whenever you are. Go ahead.
Okay. So I woke up entering into my father's house and I had a bag of stuff with me. But I wasn't wearing much clothing. And I was immediately taken to the basement by my stepmother, where I could see like writing on the walls and stuff from other people who had stayed there before me. And the way that she took me down there was like, here's the guest room, she didn't say anything, but it felt like I was being invited in and I was going to stay there for a few days. And so she went back upstairs without having said anything. And I knew that they were upstairs because I could hear them. But I was downstairs, like in this new space, looking at all of the writings and drawings that didn't make sense, like they weren't in English. But I could tell that these other people were trying to put their stories on the walls. And so I felt obligated to read them while I was waiting. And days passed, and I only know because the lights were turned on and off. But nobody talked to me, and I don't recall a passing of time. Do you know what I mean? So on the third day, what felt like the third day, my stepmother has a loud conversation. It's the first words that and she's talking to him, but his voice sounds like it's through a wall. Her voice is clear. Her voice says, we have to do something about her. We have to decide how we're going to get rid of her. We need to shoot her. I don't know if that sounds... And he's just agreeing with everything that she says, muffled through this wall. Like, I could tell that it was him, but his voice was off. So they kind of talk back and forth for a second about when she's going to come down and shoot me. Because now they're for sure going to come and shoot me. And she says, okay, if it's easier for you, I'll wait until tomorrow. And then he agrees, just like he's agreed with everything else. And then there's no noise from upstairs again, except the footsteps. I can hear her walking around. So then the night passes, but I don't sleep in my dream. It's just as if I'm awake waiting that entire time. And I hear her come down the stairs the next morning. There's no conversation about whether it's morning or whether it's time to... It's just her walking down the stairs, and I immediately know what's coming. I know she's coming to kill me. I feel like I'm about to die, and I'm okay with that. And then she stands at the landing and kind of crouches around the corner, like the stairs come down to a landing and then down to the basement. And she's like doing this weird crouching thing in the corner of that V shape, I guess. Mm-hmm. And it's so weird because the gun she's holding is so small in her hand that it only takes 3 fingers for her to hold it. But her other hand, it takes the entire other hand to hold her wrist. So she's intent on shooting me from this landing into the rooms that I'm in. And she misses every shot, like a stormtrooper. It's almost... like, it's impossible for her to have missed me. I'm a very large woman. But I feel the last bullet that she shoots, because she's frustrated. At the last bullet, I could hear her, like, get mad that now she has to go back upstairs. You could hear, like, the muffled frustration. in like the way that she's breathing. Just, I know my stepmother. I've heard that sound hundreds of times before. So she makes the frustrated sound, and I feel the air of the last shot brush against my cheek. And so I rush at her, thinking like, this is the time. Like, if I'm going to ever get away from here, this is going to be the moment. And I punch her in the face. I punch her in the face, and I take her teeny tiny little gun, which feels incredibly heavy, and I take it up to confront my father. Like, I don't even stop on the landing to talk to her. I go straight up to my dad. And he just looks at me, expressionless, like he doesn't even know who I am. Like, there's no connection between, hey, that's my daughter, just a stranger. He just looks at me and he says, it needed to be done. So I try to leave through his door, which goes out the back. But it's nailed shut for some reason. So I go to the kitchen. The kitchen windows are nailed shut. I go to the landing to try and leave through the front door. The front door is nailed shut. So I go back into the basement and I punch out the window in the basement to crawl out. And it doesn't shatter. It's not like glass. It's like plexiglass. The whole thing comes out at once. So I crawl through this hole and I go up the road, which is a road I've never seen before. And it's about 50 feet. It's not very long. And at the end of this road is like this bustling center. I don't know if it's a homeless shelter or a bus station, but it's got lots of people around it. And I go straight to the payphone. And as I'm walking to the payphone, this woman comes out of the crowd and like, she's mad already. I haven't done anything. She's already mad. And as I'm nearing the payphone, she grabs my bag and she starts like yanking my bag. Like, she's just trying to take it. And so I yank it out of her hand and she starts screaming obscenities at me. Fuck you. You know, this is mine. You can't just steal things, bitch. Like, I came with this bag and this is mine. And it was like this rollaway luggage bag. Like, so she's got the handle that's attached to the suitcase and I've got like the extendable part that's plastic. So we're literally wrestling over this bag with one hand, me with one hand, her with two hands. And I use the payphone to call the police. The police tell me to go outside and wait for them to show up. And the entire time, like, as I'm walking out of this center, she's like trying to wrestle the bag from me. She's like stopping people. She's got my bag. She's taking my bag. And they are just uninterested. They just continue walking. They don't even, I know that they have faces, but they don't like make signs of concern. They're not trying to help her in any way. They just look and then they look at me and then they just keep walking, kind of thing. So we make it out of the center and she won't let go of my bag. She's being absolutely confrontational in a way it's just swear words. Like, I don't want to say it because it's just her just screaming swear words all the time. So I charge at her like I charged at my stepmother, and she like gets spooked and runs up the road and crawls through the window that I just left in my dad's house. And as she like turns and looks at me, like she's in the basement now, she turns and looks at me and I just feel this fear and dread, like I've just killed her. Like she's gone back into the place where I was supposed to die and now she's great. And that's when I wake up. And I know when I wake up that the woman struggling for the luggage is my biological mother because I've seen her pictures. But in the dream, I don't know, like she's just a crazy lady. I don't recognize her until after I wake up. That's it.
A lot of good stuff. You saw me tearing off pages frantically, trying to keep up. Well, we've gone through it once, heard the short version, and then we got a lot more details. And before I start trying to put my own thoughts in your head, I like to ask people during that process, and it sounded like you did you have any connections, any moments of epiphany, any sense that came to you of what it was about, what it was trying to tell you, what the characters meant?
Yeah, I think that the characters were very literal. Like I found out about 3 weeks ago that my biological mom had passed away.
Oh.
So, and I knew when I woke up that the crazy person that was struggling for my bag was my biological mom. Like I just knew that was her.
Yeah.
And it felt like she was trying to take from me the past that I had earned. You know what I mean? Like I had gone through the experience in my father's house. I deserved that bag.
Yeah. There's a motif of bags. You're bringing a bag to your father's house in the beginning, and this bag, you said, had toys and books. Almost, and the first thing that came to my mind was childhood. These are things from your past, from when you were young.
And once I shoved it in that room, it didn't mean anything anymore. Like I didn't care to pick it up ever again.
You left it behind. It was just, there it is. It's been placed where it needs to be. That's kind of what I was thinking too on that.
Yeah.
And then there's also the motif of you get out of the house and there's another bag, but then you're fighting over this bag. And that's, you're saying, and this was the representation of your mother. And this dream happened after you found out that she had passed?
Yeah.
Yeah. That seems
well, it just happened 2 days ago.
Oh, 2 days ago. Well, fair enough. Then yeah, that is after 3 weeks ago. It's technically true. We'll put that in the true category. So no, you were saying, and I think I interrupted you. Go ahead. What else did you, in your own mind, put together? Going through it.
Oh, I think that my father's complacency is very literal as well. Like I feel like that's the way that he was throughout their entire marriage. Like my stepmother ruled the household.
Yeah. And he just kind of, yes, dear.
Yeah.
I'm playing my games.
Yeah. As long as we're all sane and taken care of, not necessarily healthy, because she didn't do a fantastic job either in the dream or in real life. Do you know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
I think that was just my brain's way of saying, like, yeah, this is exactly what happened to you, and you've earned that bag to take with you for the rest of your life. Do you know what I mean? Like, those were the essential items that were now mine. Yeah. And I couldn't let anybody take them from me.
There is a very strong metaphor. I mean, we use it of, people's personal baggage. Comes with you wherever you go. You mean you bring your baggage to relationships, you bring it to work. It's just kind of no, for sure. And that can be a very what am I trying to say? Yeah, a very literal representation of that kind of a thing, of like, these are mine and you can't take it away from me. And there's two kinds of I won't allow it to be taken from me, but also it can't be taken from me. It happened. Therefore it's not something I can put down necessarily. It's gonna go with me, but it was heavy, and also like the gun was heavy. That's also an interesting.
The gun was heavier than the suitcase.
Yeah, for being so tiny. But and what made me think there, and you may have the same impression, is that there was this sense of your stepmother being armed with some kind of a weapon that had a lot of weight to it, and weight. You can tell me if this resonates with you.
A lot of weight to it, but no effect.
Yeah, very ineffective. But it was threatening. I mean, it's a gun, so it's something that should be scary and is potentially dangerous, and dangerous enough that it caused you to react at the very end. But also that
it was so small. As soon as I see your fingers like that, I'm like, yeah, that's exactly how she held it too.
Yeah.
3 fingers, like,
don't make me shoot you. Right. No, and that's a very interesting dynamic of maybe how your mind is looking at this thing of like, she's carrying this weapon that's hard for her to use because it's so heavy, even if it is potentially deadly. I mean, a tiny gun still shoots tiny bullets, and tiny bullets can make you bleed. So it could be potentially deadly, but what am I trying to say? But it was also comical, and I guess maybe looking back on her now, or your experience with her, this weapon that maybe felt more threatening when you were younger, now you're looking at it like, what was I even scared of?
Yeah, absolutely.
That comes to mind. I wanted to ask you, did you have a relationship with your biological mom in the past, or you just never knew her?
No, so I was left in a closet when I was 2.5 years old.
Wow.
Yeah, my dad was a long-haul truck driver, and my biological mom, I guess, decided that she'd rather have cocaine than a child.
Yeah, some people make that decision. Oy.
Yeah, but instead of alerting authorities or anything, she actually left me in the house alone, and it was the neighbors that had to call social services and the police and stuff. Yeah,
so the idea of your mom being an unstable person showing up at a homeless shelter bus station place and screaming at you, it kind of makes sense.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness. And you never really had a relationship with her or stayed in touch with her over the years. She just kind of disappeared, and then randomly you find out, oh, she died.
So I got in touch with her when I was 24.
Okay.
Because Facebook started becoming a big thing.
Oh, that's right. And you were able to just kind of find her.
I looked her up on Facebook. Yeah. And she had nothing to say, really.
Wow. Yeah.
We talked for 2 days, and in the end, she just started sending me like Facebook invites for games and stuff, like not treating me like a person. Do you know what I mean?
Did she ever?
She had disassociated herself from being a mother.
Yeah.
And so me bringing it up 20 years later or 22 years later was an inconvenience.
She's like, I have moved on. You're not even a part of my life anymore. I don't know you.
Yeah, it was kind of like, I'm not going to make you leave me alone, but I really hope you do.
Yeah, she just wasn't investing anything into it.
Not any energy, not any effort.
And she never offered any apology for, hey, I'm sorry, I kind of abandoned you. Okay.
No, not at all. I actually sent her like quite a few paragraph notes. Like, I'm a very eloquent person when it comes to emails.
Yeah. Long-winded, as I say about myself.
Long-winded. And I went through my entire history. This is what's happened since you've been gone. And 22 years is quite a long time.
Oh, it sure is. Probably overwhelming for her, too. Yeah.
Was like 3 sentences.
That's nice. Thanks for calling. Right?
It was pretty well that. It was like, I can't remember verbatim, but it was kind of like, okay, well, thanks for letting me know. I was never really a good mom.
Understatement of the year. Yeah.
Yeah.
For sure.
Yeah.
Wow. Well. Yeah. And so your stepmother then was actually your primary caregiver for most of your life in terms of, your dad was a long haul.
I was in foster care until I was 6.
Oh, okay.
And then her daughter passed away. And when her daughter passed away, she had my dad come and get me from foster care. It was very strange.
So there was like a whole 4-year period of time where your dad never came to get you?
Yeah, he never came to get me.
Wow.
Because he was already in a relationship with her.
Yeah.
They were already having new children. They had a whole new life.
Yeah. Were your bio mom and dad together when she abandoned you and he was just on the road?
Yeah,
or had they already split up?
I'm actually the only legitimate child because my parents were actually married.
Okay.
But my dad and his common law wife was never married.
Okay.
So both of my brothers are my half brothers.
Okay.
And they're technically illegitimate children.
Yeah, I mean the common phrase is, or the exact technical specific phrase is bastards, but we don't say that anymore. So
yeah,
I mean I'm just being silly.
They're my brothers from another mother, and I'm their sister from another mother.
And you have a good relationship with them?
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh yeah, for sure. They went through the same horrific upbringing that I did. So
yeah.
We're
sounds like he was distant and she was kind of abusive in her own way.
Yeah. So I came out of foster care when I was 6. I went back in when I was 11, came back out when I was 12, went back in when I was 14. I emancipated myself at 15.
Okay.
And I've spent from 15 until now being my own person.
Okay. Yeah, it sounds like it was not the most stable. Well, that is, I mean, hearing all that stuff, your dream makes a lot more sense in terms of this was not a friendly, safe environment.
To be honest, the writing felt safer. Like the writing room where all the writing was felt safer to be sitting there reading it than trying to go upstairs to talk to my father.
Yeah. I mean, as long as the dangerous people were removed somewhere else, kept at bay by their own desire to be there and no desire for interaction, that was safer.
To read those words forever.
Yeah. And I think there's something important there too. That's something I wanted to come back around to, is that the idea that it was reassuring in a way, and maybe I don't want to put words in your mouth, but you felt it was necessary to read all the words. There was this compulsion to be thorough about absorbing the messages, even if they were as simple as "I'm here," "I was here," that kind of thing. And I think there's something important there too, that you're in a position that many other people have been in before you. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
What does that make you think?
It kind of makes me think like it was reassuring to see that other people had been in this room sort of with me, but not in the same timeline.
Yeah. Have you made connections with people in life? What am I trying to say? Who have shared similar experiences?
No.
Okay.
Yeah.
Maybe that's an aspirational thing of like, it would be nice if I could get that reassurance of, but there's also a part of your mind that literally put that there because you understand that you're like, I'm not the only person who had a rough childhood. There are a lot of people who came through this and survived it. So maybe that was your brain saying, you're physically alone, but you're not alone. This is a common experience. And there is something reassuring, not to misery loves company type of way, but like they made it, I can. Does that make sense?
Yeah, for sure. And I mean, that window was not locked. So whoever left last didn't like alert them. It didn't show my stepmother. Do you know what I mean? Like it didn't give her reason to nail that window shut.
Gotcha.
She didn't come into that basement. So they had been taken to the writing room. They had written their short passage. And then they left through the same window I left. So they got out too. I didn't feel like
anyone had died there.
Dead or under the floorboards or anything. Like,
yeah, exactly. That came to my mind as well. Yeah, that nobody died there, and you didn't either. That experience, however unpleasant, it didn't kill you. So there's part of your mind that's I would say definitely proud of that, but also like what am I trying to say? Like it's not, if it doesn't kill me, it makes me stronger. But go ahead.
I felt like I had earned that bag.
Once you got outside?
I assume that when the other ladies left, they also had earned something. Do you know what I mean? Like
their own bags, yeah.
Their own something to take with them from their experiences.
Sure. Yeah, definitely. What were some of the other things that I had made? Now's the point where my boy Prince usually comes and lays on things as I put them down here. It was interesting. There was a whole conversation between your stepmother and father, and he was always distant in real life. So it maybe makes sense that he would be behind all these multiple walls so that even his voice is muffled. You're not even seeing him, but you can barely hear him. It seems like his presence in your life was very removed, or multiple barriers.
And when I went upstairs to see him, it was as if he had just stepped out of a picture. Do you know what I mean? Like, it was very cliche, my dad. It wasn't my dad the way that he interacted with me personally. Yeah. But it was him as a person. Yeah.
There is something very iconic about that image of your maybe the way you conceptualize him is there he is again, focused on his video games, tuning the world out in his comfy chair. That's kind of the core of who he was to you for a long time.
Yeah.
And so to have that image come back and say, of course, this is what I remember. This was how he was disengaged or not actively managing what a situation that could have been made better if he was paying attention, if he was invested in the outcome and not just trying to tune the world out.
Because maybe if he had been actually listening to what she said, maybe he wouldn't have chosen to have her come and shoot me. Do you know what I mean? Like,
yeah,
it seemed like he didn't understand that I was going to die tomorrow. And
yeah.
He was just like, yeah.
For sure. And meanwhile, she's making decisions or advocating for outcomes or behaviors that were
negative outcomes
that are not in your best interest, not in favor of helping you or making your life better, literally ending it in your mind.
Or his. Yeah. Because it felt like she hadn't entered his room either. Like, yeah. Because his room had the one-way barrier as well. And I never heard her footsteps go into his room. So it was like she was taking care of him as well, only in the most minimal way possible, so that she could just do whatever she wanted to, which I don't know what that is, because there was no other room in that house other than his room in the kitchen. So unless she was standing in a corner the entire time, I don't know. I'd say if
you're trapped in the basement by the one-way door and he's kind of isolated by choice in his room, then she gets the run of the rest of the house. She gets her way. She gets to
it's not a very big house.
Set the rules. Fair enough. And maybe that kitchen represents, I mean, did she cook? Did she spend a lot of time in the kitchen? Is that where she kind of hung out? Was that her space in real life?
Kind of, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And it doesn't have to be all the time. Could have been, because I'm sure in real life she actually did go into your dad's room.
That's for sure.
Say again?
She did all of the cooking for him.
Okay, fair enough. So, I mean, so that's also kind of iconic of her is that, you had these 2 rooms in the house and in your real life experience of these people, and each room represents that person in a way, him in his isolation, her in her domain, her cooking, but also you two being shuffled off into different separate areas where they were out of her way. They wouldn't interrupt her ability to control what was going on. If that makes sense.
Yeah, no, that totally makes sense.
Yeah. That's and I've got this here. I just wanted to look at it. I mean, we might have gone over that enough. There were a few things I underlined, highlighted. Yeah, it was very important to read all the messages. The idea that the small room had the bare minimum. Yeah, these one-way barriers are very interesting. Just the door frames, the idea that passing through, there's a sense of finality, of irreversibility to certain decisions. Like, you don't have to do this, but once it's done, it can't be undone, and that happens in our lives all the time. But it doesn't always feel as impactful as it does with our relationships. So there's something about decision making, about irreversible decisions that's going on with those door frames. I don't know if that brings anything to mind.
And yet, I think we kind of volunteered to be behind those lines. Do you know what I mean? Like
there's definitely a choice involved.
It's not that we made the choice to be segregated from everything else, but we chose to put ourselves past that.
To say put yourself across the threshold, entering an irreversible decision, or hesitating to cross the barrier?
No, there was no hesitation. I think it means something when I chose to enter the basement. My dad chose to enter that room, and we chose to stay there in our respective things instead of communicating with each other, instead of going to the kitchen, instead of trying to do anything to get out of those rooms. We just accepted that not only was the choice being made for us, but that we were just expected to have made that choice, and we were going to live with that choice. There was no going back.
Yeah. And in some ways, with things that have already happened, they cannot be undone. I mean, no matter what it is, it could be as simple as you brush your teeth. You can't unbrush them. They've been brushed. That happened 5 minutes ago. That's very simple. But then there's other things where it's like, I chose to get behind the wheel of a car drunk and I killed someone. Can't take it back. It could be major. It can be minor, but it's those irreversible things. And we really only focus on it when it's regret oriented, when it's like, I wish things had been different.
I think because I chose to live in that household with them without ever, I didn't call the police when I should have when I was younger. I didn't leave when I should have when I was younger. I wanted so badly to have some sort of relationship with my father, who was separated from me, that I stayed in
it just had always been.
Yeah. I stayed there voluntarily, but not without regret.
Yeah. And attempting to make a connection that you just couldn't force to happen. It had to be, you could reach out your hand, he's got to reach back. And it's excusable to you as a child, of course, that you didn't know how to make that happen. And in some ways, maybe it's excusable to him. He didn't know how to make it happen either, or whatever was in him to desire that and work towards it just couldn't connect. Not trying to make excuses for it, but there's a lot of people that are,
But he didn't make the efforts for anyone, not even my mother, because by not ever discussing anything with her or coming to a resolution on anything in real life, he just gave away his control. Do you know what I mean? Like, he didn't interact with his sons. He didn't interact with me. He didn't take control of his own life. He didn't have a proper relationship with my mother, like my stepmother, but I call her my mother. She's really the only mother I've ever known.
Fair enough. Yeah.
I don't think that he had a real and substantial relationship with anybody that he knew.
Huh.
I think that is part of why he's in that room and can't leave. Is because if he came out and interacted with me, then he'd have no excuse as to why he couldn't interact with anybody else.
Yeah.
So maybe he's trapped there by his own making, the way that I was trapped in the writing room by my own making. Because the moment I didn't want to be in that writing room anymore,
you got out.
There was no barrier.
Yeah. And that is very interesting. Yeah. I mean, there is that choice. And you did mention that too originally, that there was a sense of, you knew what it meant to cross the barrier, and you had the sense that it was almost like it had to happen. Like you didn't have a choice, even though you were making the choice. It was expected. It was obligated. It was the way it needed to be.
Yeah, I was already in their house, and so that was where I was meant to go.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, but then that it would disappear when it was no longer needed. That's not the right way to put it. When you decided, I'm not going to have that barrier in my way. I don't care what it was when I got here. It's not the same thing now, because.
And I'm out.
Yeah, you something about you changed in that. And you said, you mentioned a while ago, and I'm glad I remembered, that there were echoes of how you actually dealt with your stepmother in real life in this exchange on the stairs with the tiny gun. What do you have to say about that in relation to the dream imagery? You don't have to talk about anything uncomfortable, of course.
That's okay. My dad passed away 2 years ago. And after he passed away, my stepmother still tried to communicate with us, and she thought that things would just go on as normal, as per usual. And I think the only reason why I ever had a relationship with her is because my father was there.
Because she's attached to your dad's package deal.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because it's crazy. I know as a human being it sounds horrible, but the moment my dad passed, I had absolutely no reason to talk to her. I no longer felt like it was necessary to have a conversation or keep a hold of anything to do with it.
Yeah.
And so,
well, the reason to do so literally disappeared. Yeah.
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 So she would still ask for the same, like, crazy asinine tasks or chores, you know, like, can you lend me $1,600? You know, like, she's always had strange demands the entire time that we were growing up. And we've always complied. Even if we couldn't do them, we still tried to do them. And they were never appreciated in the way that even one human would appreciate another human, let alone the way that a mother would appreciate a child.
Yeah.
So now as an adult, since my dad's not there and my relationship to her really means nothing, I just stopped doing anything.
Yeah. I mean, why would you? That's,
yeah,
literally, the reason to do so has disappeared. Yeah.
When she was moving, I didn't help her move. She asked me to come deal with some of the people that she had invited to come and live with her, which were related to her it was like my second cousin once removed who was addicted to drugs, had moved in with her, and then she had 2 dogs and a boyfriend, and the cousin that was addicted to drugs that was invited to come and stay in the first place had left for 3 days, but the 2 dogs and the boyfriend was still there. Huh. And my stepmother wanted me to come over and ask them to leave.
Wow. Yeah.
How about no?
Yeah. No, it's like, that's a whole lot of drama I don't care to be involved in because not my problem. I get you on that one. Yeah.
And I stopped talking to her after that. So I haven't talked to her in probably, I don't know, 14, 15 months.
Wow.
Since before Coronapocalypse. Like,
yeah. And because you never really had that strong relationship with her in the first place. I mean, it wasn't like she was extremely supportive and earned that honor thy parents dynamic. And,
I don't think she ever felt like a parent. Do you know what I mean? Like, I think I only called her mom because it made my dad happy.
Yeah.
To hear us call her mother.
For sure. Yeah. And that, so the, what we were looking at was the dream imagery of she's taking these shots at you with the gun. And I mean, each bullet can be a representative maybe of those tasks or the attempt to, the experience of her doing things that were potentially wounding towards you. And you know, when that last bullet whizzed too close and you're like, I've had enough of this. That's just about too.
That was the only bullet that I thought I was going to die.
Where it even had the chance. I mean, the rest of it was like, and I think the idea that it was comical and she was missing. And I think there's a piece of your self-concept in there where it's like, I'm too strong for this. You know, all these bullets she shot at me in the past, I did not let them wound me.
I remember thinking, firstly, how I wanted to laugh in her face. And secondly, I was like, well, if she actually does hit me, I guess I'll die. Like, just accepting, like, yeah, if she actually manages it, I'll let myself die.
That was interesting too. I wasn't sure what to make of that. What do you think about that? The idea that if she were to do something to wound you fatally, you'd just say, fuck it, whatever. You'd be okay with it.
I think in that moment I was having the same like disassociation that my dad was having with his problems. Do you know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
Like I had just blindly accepted everything that she said up until this point, and if I just blindly accepted this too, then maybe it would just all turn out for the best because I don't really know where this is going, right?
Sure.
And it wasn't until I actually felt that there was an actual threat, because I didn't think that I was going to die before. I was just like, yeah, if she tries to kill me, if she actually manages it, then I'll be dead, whatever. I think it wasn't until I felt the threat that I could actually palpably know that in that instance I was going to die, that I didn't take action because everything before that was an empty. It was a tiny comical gun. She was on the landing in this like weird Call of Duty display, like she was trying to be overly dramatic. Like she's always overly dramatic. And it just felt like she couldn't possibly hit me.
Gotcha.
Do you know what I mean?
And there is something important in that the act of her attempting to do harm was displayed in your mind as not just harmless, but comical. This what is it? A caricature of her overly dramatic presentation of, look at how serious I'm being. Yeah. I think there's something in there too, that all of that added up to this idea of, it's probably not going to hurt me, but and that might take you back to your childhood in some ways, where it's like, in some ways you have no choice but to accept that your parents or caregivers make decisions. They're going to affect you. They might kill you, and there's nothing you can do about it. So fuck it. Do you kind of get that disconnect of, I'm going to go with the show?
I went through my whole childhood thinking that my decisions weren't really my own. Yeah.
Yeah. And in a lot of ways, I think it sounds like they weren't. I mean, because when we're children, we're so helpless. We don't have the information or the ability to act on what we think is best. We don't always know what is best. We're looking to our, caregivers to make those good decisions, trying to trust them, trying to form our own independence, but also largely trapped in the consequences of their decisions, because that's just what it means to be a kid, to be helpless in those situations. But your image of her changed in this exchange, where there was this compliance with the expectation to go into the basement because that's where she wanted to go. And that's but then there was this change of you seeing her as no longer threatening, but now comical. But wait a minute, at the end of that comical display was the real risk of, you're like, oh wait, no, she is actually dangerous. Maybe I should do something about this. And so that's when you rush in and finally take that control of your own actions and destiny and say, I'm not taking this. I'm going to fight. And not only that, but in your mind, in your feeling towards this situation, you were successful. You hit her square in the nose and knocked her the fuck out. Yeah. So that's very, that personal empowerment type of thing, reflecting on your childhood and where you've come now, where you're at in your life now compared to what it used to be like, and leaving your toys in the basement in that tiny room. Yeah.
In the dream, though, that feeling of like success didn't last for very long, because once I got up to my dad's room, the moment he looked at me, I just felt so sad.
Defeated again. Mean? Yeah. Oh yeah, like, this gap is here. This barrier is still here.
Success didn't affect anything except me. So now I have to leave this house by myself.
Yeah. Well, you overcame one problem and you were maybe briefly exultant. I won. Oh, these other problems are still here. Fuck. They are.
Like,
they
fuck,
are.
Like, fuck, now I have to get out of here. Fuck, why is this window locked? Like, fuck.
Yeah.
Like, I can't.
Well, and then it was interesting that your exchange with him was, he's still this kind of iconic figure of distance and disinterest and expressionless, and not like he was looking at someone he cared. And all he said was it had to be done. How do you relate that to his life? Was he kind of fatalist in a lot of that? Like, there's nothing we could do, or that's just how it is. Was that kind of his attitude towards life?
Yeah. I mean, if that could be my dad's catchphrase, I think that would be it.
It had to be done, or that's the way it is.
He would only do what needed to be done, and he would only do it when it became no longer to be avoided. Do you know what I mean?
Something you just couldn't avoid it any longer.
Yeah.
Not very proactive about things.
And I think I picked that up in my personal life, because I'm very much a procrastinator.
Oh. Yeah. Well, there's a lot of these things where they come back in our dreams in this way of like showing us people and events that represent things we're struggling with now. So you may have actually been thinking about, and you get all these things together at the same time and they connect, and then you dream about it. And it's a horrible jumbled mess of all these images and impressions and feelings and sensations. But then you narrow it down to this kind of thing. It's like, do I want to be like my father? Like, that came out of like our 2-hour conversation here. Do I want to be a procrastinator? Do I want to avoid problems until they screw me over?
I think this was like a PSA. My brain's like, PSA warning, that if I don't get more proactive, I'm going to end up a nihilist.
Yeah.
Like my dad.
Yeah.
Like, I need to actually like stand up and punch somebody. Do you know what I mean?
Stand up and punch your problems. I mean, that proactive thing is sometimes that's what is it? Some people say everything happens for a reason. There's that idea, but it's the idea of everything or everyone has a purpose in life. And my answer to that is sometimes your purpose in life is to be a warning to others. And sometimes that's the best thing we can do with our past traumas like that, is look at the people that let us down, handled things poorly, and say, I'm just going to choose not to do it that way, because I didn't appreciate it when I experienced it, and I don't want to carry that forward in my life, do it to anyone else, or end up that way. I mean, if you close yourself off and hide in a room and play video games all day, it might occupy your mind and your time. You might not feel bad while you're doing it, but you're not really doing anything. You're not really taking care of the people around you or engaged with life or making your own life something worth living in a way. So
this is really bad timing for that dream, because it is the corona apocalypse and there is no going outside.
Right? No. And that actually probably is exactly why all of this is also coming together, because it's finally, it's giving you time to think about it.
I feel like I need to get some things done in my personal life, and now I can't. Now I have the stepmother corona apocalypse at the top of the stairs preventing me from actually getting out of the basement.
Yeah.
And I just need to wait for my time. Do you know what I mean? Like, as soon as this is all over, I need to go and see my nephews. I need to make contact with what's left of my crumbling family. And I need to do something. Like, do something other than playing Minecraft all day.
Yeah, which can be very much fun. I love my video games too,
Super
but it's
fun. But I mean, besides doing laundry, eating, and playing Minecraft, there's not really much to do in isolation. Do you know what I mean?
It's true. It's true. I think there's a part of you also that's looking for something more, and that's like, and you do feel trapped in this, and you are, but not maybe. I think part of what your mind's trying to tell you is you're not as trapped as you feel. It's not as it's not that you can't, it's that you don't know how yet. But what your mind is telling you is if you look, you'll find that way. But you have to look for it. You can't just resign yourself to being stuck behind the one-way doors.
Maybe I should go get it.
Going to talk to a real professional. I mean, this is not counseling and therapy. We're doing this for entertainment and educational purposes only, of course.
No, but I mean, like, so the first thing that I do when I get out of the basement is I go to the nearest crowded center and call somebody for help.
Absolutely.
So maybe I'm supposed to go and get some help. Maybe not professional help.
Sure.
Maybe I just need a purpose.
Yeah. I think for sure. I think that imagery in the dream, and I was going to, we haven't even gotten to that stuff yet, but that is very representative of your mind or subconscious in this sense, acknowledging you're not going to get what you need in isolation. You're not going to get it on your own. You didn't even get it alone in the basement. You got it also from all the other people that have been there before. There was that hint, almost a foreshadowing of you're going to need to connect in order to get through this. And then once you did, immediately you went to a place where there was a bunch of people and you could reach out to someone of a trusted authority in a way, like calling the police for help. And then it is interesting that as you got to that place of, I'm going to take action on this need to connect and pull in the support, the help that I need to get through this and to succeed in the future, this image of your mother shows up to try and yank your baggage away. And I think that's connected to the act of reaching out. So when you put those two things on top of each other, how does that image of your mother, the yanking, the struggling over the baggage, fit with reaching out to connect and get help?
I think, and I know this is going to sound strange, but I think like because we had been disconnected for the 22 years up until we made, and then we were disconnected again another 14 years until I found out about her passing. Maybe that I just didn't want to know at that time if she was dead or alive. Like it didn't make sense why I needed to know that fact and that I needed to help myself. Do you know what I mean? Like
Mm-hmm.
I need to help myself and find my own help, my own purpose, and not worry about what happened to the crazy lady.
Sure. I think that's a good connection.
Just a barrier that I'll just get hooked up on, and I'll end up in another basement. Do you know what I mean?
Sure. Yeah. There's something there with the idea that she's struggling to pull these things that you feel you've earned, that bag was waiting there for you once you escaped the basement because you'd earned it, because it was yours in a very material way, but also in a metaphysical way, thoughts and feelings, a lived experience kind of way, and it's heavy, but it's yours, and you don't want to lose it. Like you didn't give the bag to her. You're like, take it, go. I don't need this. It's like, no, that's mine. That is mine. I know it. And there's something in, what am I trying to say? This representation of the mother fighting so hard to take it from you. Like she felt it belonged to her, that you shouldn't have it. And that she was gonna, as much as you were there to reach out to people and connect and call for help, she was also then eventually appealing to these same people in that environment to do something, to intervene, to make you let it go and give it to her. I don't think I'm putting the dots together, but I don't know if that brings anything to mind.
I don't know.
Yeah, I feel like there's something there. I think that's I don't know. Sometimes I get this tickles and I'm like, damn, I can't figure it out. Sometimes I just ramble until something occurs to me. But one thing I was thinking is that it's not, sometimes the images in our mind and our dreams are not clear cut. It's like this person's doing something not because that's what you think they would do, but because of the way you conceptualize what that person represents, that's telling you something about the action they're performing. So I think it's not like you think your mother's trying to ruin your life from the grave. That's a bad way to phrase it, but that's, one way you could conceptualize it, or that your image of her is that she would harm you in some way by taking something away, but that maybe something she represents. Let me put this another way. It's possible that if you were to conceptualize the luggage as baggage that you're carrying with you, and a lot of people do that as a negative thing, or traumas and experiences as my baggage, my personal baggage. There may be
more like it was just is.
What's that?
It's more like it just is my baggage. It's not like a negative connotation. It just is my.
Sure. And that's great for your mind's understanding of what it is you carry with you, is that it's mine. I can't get rid of it. Those experiences happened. They're heavy to carry, but you got wheels and you got the handle, and it's not like it's you're chained to a rock that is your baggage and you can't move with it.
It would have been easy to carry if she hadn't been struggling with me.
Exactly. So maybe there's even a part of you. Okay, here's where I'm going with this. I think it clicked in my mind, and this is pure speculation, but there may be a part of you that wishes your mother had been there and taken away all these bad experiences. Does that make sense? So, but now in your current mind, you're like, I'm letting go of that idea by not letting go of my baggage. By like, I'm letting go of the wish fulfillment that she had not abandoned me and had been a better mother and had been in my life. And I'm going to prove that to myself by dreaming this scene where she comes along to take my baggage from me. And I say, no, this is mine. I lived it. I'm not letting it go. I'm letting go of the desire for that my life had turned out differently.
Yeah, the desire for you to have come and fixed my problems for me.
That's where I was trying to go with that. I don't know if if it makes sense to you. It's just an idea.
That totally makes sense, because I chased her into the basement. Like I knew what that house meant, and I still chased her into that basement.
You chased her, but she chose to go there, right? Or did you feel like you drove her there? If you hadn't chased her, she would not have ended up there.
Right.
Okay.
I feel like if I hadn't taken the bag and forcefully lunged at her, then she wouldn't have ran into that window.
You did say you felt responsible for her ending up in that place.
Because there was a road on the other side. Like, there was lots of places for her to run.
She could have gone a different direction.
I chased her into that basement.
Yeah. And that feeling of responsibility for her circumstances and
the dread.
And the dread. Well, and the idea that
she was just like that.
Yeah, and it's funny because you're looking at it too, and you can look at it like this is a human being. This is my biological mother, whom I wish no harm upon, yet is going to be harmed, and I feel dread and regret or whatever about that. But then there's also another level of.
But at least she's not holding onto my bag anymore.
She's not trying to take this from me. It's in a way like we were talking about that the mother representation was not. It's letting go of the desire for her to have come and saved you in the past, and that is letting an idea of her die.
Yeah.
And that is a sad experience. Like this, the death of an idea can be mourned the same way that as the death of a person. That's going to sound weird to people who are like, people are more important than ideas. Yes, but sometimes you have say,
but it's true.
Yeah,
it's true.
And that's a sad thing to let go of this fantasy of rescue, and to let that idea die. It would be a sad experience, and would also fill you with some dread. Hey, if I let go of this fantasy, this desire that things had been different, what is my future going to be like? What do I do now? What do I replace that dream with? I don't have a new one yet. If you had a new dream already, you probably would have had a different experience of her sailing away on a ship and someone else appearing, but instead you're left with this dread of like, okay, that idea is going to die and I don't know what to do. Yeah. It's a lot of people, I say that all the time, but there are some people who experience the death of a relative in a dream and they're like, why do I wish my mother had died? That's not what it means. It's you're not wishing harm upon anyone, or there's no secret inner desire for the death of people. It's usually, death in dreams is usually it's an ending, it's a finality, it's passing a threshold. It's different things that don't always mean death. It's just that's how we conceptualize it, because death is very final. It's a threshold you can't come back from. So if you're going to let an idea die, then it feels or looks in your mind sometimes like the death of a person, at least your idea of that person. So
yeah.
Wow.
Well, I'm not a crier, but.
Oh, are we hitting?
Yeah, that was very heavy.
Oh, thank you so much.
Actually,
I'm gonna cry. Don't do that.
No. I'll take my coffee instead.
I know. It's coffee time. I'll just say this. We'll change the subject, but on the same subject. I don't cry very often. I just don't, but I do. I mean, cry occasionally. One thing that gets me, and it's a weird thing. You remember I think it was Tobey Maguire, the Spider-Man 2. I think it was Spider-Man 2. It's the scene where he saves the people on the train and he's shooting out all the webs and he's there and he stops the train and he passes out and they catch him and they bring him in, and gently, and the slow music and the panning camera, and they're handing him hand over hand and they put him down. They're like, he's just a kid. I got a son his age. I get tears at that moment every time. These people who are like, this guy just about wrecked himself to save us, and they're just so grateful. And that makes me, I get awful clapped at that scene. That's the kind of that hero moment of where people like really appreciate something. And I just had that same feeling with you. I was like, I feel like Spider-Man. So anyway, that's a long story short on that one. Before we wrap up and maybe talk a minute afterwards, do you feel like we covered everything important? Were there some specific elements that we didn't quite get into you were curious about?
No, I think we were very thorough.
We read all the messages on the wall. I think we did.
Yeah.
Right? I love that. It's a great analogy.
On the right-hand wall, absolutely.
We sure did. We hit that right before we got out the door. Yeah, well, that's it. And as I said, I always talk to people a couple of minutes after to make sure things are kosher. So what I will do now is just thank you, Dana, for joining us. I really appreciate talking to you. It was a good experience for me, and I'm glad you're satisfied by how things went.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, definitely. And I'll just say to everyone watching, please like, share, subscribe. I'd love to do this as my day job. I have a podcast now, website. Look for links in the description. And thanks for joining us on another episode of Dreamscapes. Thanks for listening.